Time to draft. We have another Return to Ravnica pack here with Righteous Authority as the rare, which would be a nice start to an Azorius deck, maybe with a focus on auras and enchantments, particularly Knightly Valor and Ethereal Armor. The uncommons are fine, Skyline Predator probably the best, but pretty expensive. Risen Sanctuary even more expensive, and Gutter Snipe more of a fun card than a serious contender. The commons are pretty bad, and that's something I've noticed in Return to Ravnica. The packs sometimes have a lot of very good commons, but oftentimes you look at packs like that and you're basically forced to take one of the rarer cards. Gorehouse Chainwalker is the best card in the common slot here, but I think Righteous Authority is sufficiently better that picking it here is the right choice. Next up, we see Hussar Patrol and Sunspire Griffin in our colors, and Centaur's Herald for the Selesnya, Mage, Splatterthug for Rakdos. So in the beginning I thought that Hussar Patrol was really good for Azorius decks, but I found that a 2/4 body on the ground is just not all that exciting, and people won't just blindly run into it anyway. So I think that Sunspire Griffin is far better than Hussar Patrol. It's worse than the green and the red common here, but I would like to protect my first pick, and the power level I'm giving up isn't that big of a deal. Also passing a Splatterthug, maybe our left neighbor is drafting Rakdos after getting Chainwalker and Splatterthug, which would be good if we end up in Azorius because there is no overlap. And that's kind of a late Underworld Connections, although I found that this format is very tempo based, and sometimes you don't even have the time to get the Underworld Connections going. It doesn't really work on turn 3, so you want to drop in on turn 4 to draw another card, but if you are behind on the board, that's oftentimes just too slow. So I'm going to pass up on that one, especially because it doesn't really go with white cards all that nicely. Keeping on passing these Rakdos cards, and I think the decision is between Tower Drake and Centaur's Herald. Now we've passed one Herald, but I feel like this is one of the most important commons for Selesnya decks. Sunspire Griffin does work in a Selesnya deck as well. The only question is how committed I am to Azorius at this point. I feel like I can use this pick to pick up a Tower Drake, which would be another evasive creature, which is important in the aura-based Azorius, and not giving up too much. I can still switch into Selesnya if the cards show up. Now, Azorius doesn't seem to be all that open from that pack, but the overall power level is pretty low anyway. So the fact that I've passed all these Unleash cards feels like it's more likely that I will get green cards from the left rather than red ones. So maybe it would be a good idea to pick Drudge Beetle rather than a red card, although the power level of all of these cards is not all that exciting anyway. Yeah, I'm just going to go with the 2-drop here. I think that the Beetle usually does more than than it looks like. So next up we have Gatecreeper Vine if you want to continue picking green cards, or a very nice Azorius Arrestor, which would fit into our curve nicely. The fact that we are almost assuredly going to play white also means that our white picks are going to be more likely to make the deck in the end. I also like to pick up the proactive cards when possible, compared to Gatecreeper Vines, which is just fixing, basically. So let's do a cost sort here. We have a pretty low curve, which is nice. I like Armory Guard in Azorius. I also think, however, that you can get it much later. Kind of looking at Bluster Squall as a nice way to control the flow of the game and the tempo of the game. Don't know if I would even main deck it, but it's an uncommon, so if I want one, I should probably pick it here. Question is if Armory Guard is just better. The first one certainly is, but it's very likely that we can get a lot of these. Yeah, I'm still going to go with that. I don't think that Blaster Squall is a very good main deck card. Wow, that is a pack that's completely opposite from the one we opened, because we see a lot of commons that I would be happy to main deck. Except for the Vermin, all of them are actually quite powerful. I like both of these 2-mana spells. Yeah, I also like Ethereal Armor in Azorius very much. And getting one in the first pack, pick 7, means that I can maybe draft the Ethereal Armor deck, which I would actually prefer to just picking up a 2-drop or an expensive 6-drop. So I'm going to go with that here, and hopefully we'll be able to pick up some more enchantments on the way. And that's what I was talking about. Armory Guard is just not a very high priority, and you can usually get it late. There's also Conjured Currency, which I still haven't tried, but I'm not too keen on it either. Inspiration has dropped in my evaluation quite a bit. I'm going to go with the Uncommon here. It's a 2-1 for 1, and that trades for quite a few creatures, so I'm fine with that. Sundering Growth would be an option for me. I'm not planning to populate, but it's going to be good against me. The alternative is a Doorkeeper, which isn't the worst. It's not aggressive, but it does have 4 toughness, and it's more likely to make my main deck than Sundering Growth. Here we have the choice between Mizzium Skin and a Bazaar Cravat. Don't think that the Cravat is really good. Mizzium Skin also not very likely to make it, but it's a possibility. Going to take out the Key Rune out of that pack. Electricity can be quite good against Azorius, so I don't want to see that. And here I'm just going to take the blue-white card for signaling purposes. So overall we didn't get all that many playables, or good playables I should say, but hopefully we can get some good cards from the left, given that we passed almost no Azorius cards, except for one Cortusar, I believe. And here we go, we open up a Steam Vents, which would be a consideration in any draft, depending on your overall win percentage and general strategy with regards to rare drafting. It's certainly not a bad pickup here. And usually what you have to ask yourself is if the card you're picking instead is worth enough for your deck that you can pass on these tickets here. I'm going to pick the Sunspire Griffin because I want my Azorius deck to be as powerful as possible. So let's do that. Deathrite Shaman, also a nice rare, not in our colors, but there's some very nice cards here. I like Stealer of Secrets in the Ethereal Armor decks quite a bit, but we do have 3 drops already, so I believe that Nightly Valor is the pick for us. Hazard Patrol, once again, it's okay, but it's very replaceable. Nightly Valor, another aura that goes very nicely on our flyers, and is one of the reasons why this deck works. Also very likely to get at least one of those 4 drops back, maybe the Stealer of Secrets, although the power level of the remaining cards isn't quite as high. Here we see a second Dryad Militant. The Phantom General doesn't do anything in our deck. There's also a Void Wielder, which I feel has to be the pick for us. It's going to be very good against us, but it's also great in any tempo-based game where you are trying to close out the game with flyers. A second Dryad Militant wouldn't be the end of the world, but it's not that we actually need it. Next up, maybe this is the time to pick up a Stealer of Secrets. There's a Trained Caracal. I'm not going to pick it here, and I usually don't pick it highly. If you get a couple of Ethereal Armors, though, it's not the end of the world to play one of these in your main deck. Azorius Key Rune I've found to be not that exciting. A 2/2 a bird is usually worse than just dropping a 3-drop, and the mana acceleration is clunky and not that great. I'm not the biggest fan of the key runes overall, and I think that the blue-white one is particularly bad. Seal of Secrets is better than Hover Barrier because we want to be attacking if possible. It's also the perfect card for our strategy. Next up, we do have some options again. Sphere of Safety, even though we are picking up all these enchantments, it's just not a great card, I feel. Judge's Familiar is fine, and I found that especially Celestia actually has so many instants and sorceries that its effect can be quite relevant. I'm not that big a fan of cancel in the type of deck we are drafting, so just because we are going to tap out quite a bit. The question is if the 3/3 flyer for 6 with its detain ability is better than Judge's Familiar, and I have made the experience that curve is very important, and you can get cards like Asperia Skywatch later, whereas Judge's Familiar is really, well, one of a kind. It's rarer, definitely much rarer to have it. This looks like an easy pick of Swift Justice. Even though we are playing enchantments, having one Swift Justice in your deck is usually a very good thing to have. I also like Downsize quite a bit. Can be much better than it looks like, but it doesn't compete with Swift Justice here. That looks like quite an empty pack. I think Seller of Songwords is what we want. Don't need a second Museum Skin, and I could hate draft an Aerial Predation, but Seller of Songbirds is very playable, so it might actually make the deck. It's a late Tower Drake, and we are already pretty high on 3-drops, so I think that Dramatic Rescue is the right card for us. Once again, it's really good against us, but it's also extremely potent against a variety of decks, gaining you some life and tempo against Rakdos, punishing tokens and Scavenge from Celestia and Gorgari respectively, and it's just one of the better Azorius commons, in fact. Rogue's Passage is incredibly powerful, but it's not something that the blue-white flyer deck wants. And here we really don't have anything. I think I'm going to come back to that Train Caracal I talked about. I think that I'm not going to play any of the other cards, and they aren't particularly good against me, so who knows. That's a late House of Patrol, which is about the time I'm happy to pick one up. Also, having exactly one is kind of nice, just because your opponent might play around it, but you don't always have it, which is better than having a whole bunch of them in hand and having to cast them anyway. So, as I've said, I feel like Inspiration is basically unplayable. I'm actually going to pick this Lifelinker instead. I'm not going to play all of them, of course, but... And once again, Sphere of Safety is too expensive for my tastes, and I can actually see myself playing Crosstown Career. So what we are looking for is some more 2-drops and Ethereal Armors, which we didn't get any of. So that's our main goal for the last pack. Not going to splash anything. I didn't pick any fixing, and this deck doesn't really need to. So looking at Dispel, Skywatch, and Arrestor, and given the lack of 2-drops, Arrestor is certainly the pick here. Next up, a very nice Precinct Captain that also works nicely with auras, even though I'm not seeing any in these packs, which could be a problem later. But the rare is better than the other 2-drops, and I don't really like Avenging Arrow. Somebody's getting a nice Augur Spree, but it's not us. Next up, we could pick up an Azorius Charm, which you will usually cast to put a creature on top of its owner's library, which is an effect I don't really like all that much. But, well, it does have 3 abilities, so it's never a dead card. I think I like it better than Inaction Injunction, and I don't want a second Swift Justice in this deck, so let's go with the Charm. Next up, we have the chance to pick another Sunspire Griffin or a Hussar Patrol. There's also a Guildgate. I think that Sunspire Griffin is one of the key creatures of this deck, and it pains me to pass a Stab Wound, but I'm not seeing us splashing it, so yeah. It would have been a nice additional enchantment though. One card we also didn't see in this draft was Security Blockade, which isn't great just on its own, but once you have a couple of ethereal armors, it can be really nice. So here, I feel like Keening Apparition does the most for our deck, giving us a 2-drop rather than a 3-drop that's basically worse than the 3-drops we have. And I'm not too keen on any of the other cards. Fair Imposter does work nicely with Void Wielder and Azorius Arrestor, so that's also a consideration here. Let's see. No, I think it's going to be too expensive most of the times in our deck. I kind of like the Keening Apparition more. Not really interested in playing all these 1-drops, given that we didn't get the enchantments we wanted, and also nothing like the equipment that gives a creature plus X+O, where X is its colors, Civic Saber, I believe. So Cancel should probably be better than Judge's Familiar, although I've grown to like the Familiar quite a bit. I'm not too sure if we really need another 1-drop though. Most likely not. Oh, but Cancel is also kind of a bad card in our deck. Let's see. Another Tower Drake. Nothing to see here. Just picking the flyer rather than another defensive creature. Here we see Dried Militant and Paralyzing Grasp. Both would be quite fine in our deck. I'm planning to play Ethereal Armor, so any additional enchantments could be quite valuable. Also, I think that we don't really have enough removal at this point. So even though Paralyzing Grasp is not the greatest card, I feel like I can do quite a bit in this deck. And I'm afraid that the remaining cards just aren't going to be very good. Still not a fan of Sphere of Safety. Going to pick the Dispel. I'm not sure if the Crosstown Courier would actually make the deck at this point. I feel like we have more than enough cards to fill our deck. Jailbreaker and Launch Party are pretty good, and I don't want to play against Launch Party, so I'm going to take that out. And here the expensive creatures aren't really that much of a problem, but let's take one out. And that should be it. Let's see how our deck is going to look like. So let's see what we have here. Don't know about this one. We'll have to decide on the early drops later. Also not too sure if Seller of Songbird should make this deck. So overall, this looks pretty nice. Don't think that the Seller is going to make it, to be honest. It's going to be a worse flyer, and we have better cards. Also not sure if Cancel is the right card for this deck. It works nicely with the bounce effects, but we are going to tap out very often, especially in the early game, so maybe Cancel is just not the right card to play. So what we could do is play another 2-drop, play Judge's Familiar, or go with more tricks, basically. So these are our options, and we still have Seller of Songbirds here, and the Cancel is also up for consideration. I'm going to play the Paralyzing Grasp. I think that's fine. And yeah, I'm not too keen on the Cancel, also because it's a double blue card, and with Precinct Captain and triple Sunspire Griffin, this looks like a 10-6 mana base. Yeah, and that means we aren't going to play the double blue card, basically. It also devalues the crosstown couriers because it's less likely that they come down early. But I kind of like them as a way to deal with early Rakdos creatures and to just start putting on an offensive. So I think this deck leads some more creatures. We are playing 3 auras to make them better. And maybe the last card is in fact Judge's Familiar, just to get some pokes in and make it harder for the opponent to cast his removal spells or cards like Corsa's Accord and things like that. Yeah, I think I'm going to run that one and see how it goes. And that's also correct, so let's go.